back to my channel, Trying Down Podcast. I'm your host, Leo. And thank you guys for sticking with me, man, and checking out my content and listening to my life story about how it was going to prison at 16 years old and doing a decade. And what came with it as far as involving myself in gang life, involving myself in gang politics, prison politics, and it was a long journey. I thank God that I'm out of it. I thank God that I didn't get, as you're hearing my story, after I didn't get released from prison and stay on a straight course. You know what I'm saying? I reverted back to who I used to be by surrounding myself around the same type of people, doing the same type of things that I was doing before. So let's get into it, man. This is where I'm going to start off. My childhood is where I think my life kind of took a turn for the worst. Was this one incident where I was skipping school, and my parents at the time, they were separated, right? My dad had gone to live in California. My mom was taking care of us. She had 5 of us, so she was taking care of us. And we're growing up poor, man. You know what I'm saying? Like behind on bills, behind on rent. You guys know the story. People that have lived that life. And this certain day, I was skipping school, and I heard a knock on the door. It was a police officer, right? Look out the window, it was a police officer. I get scared, man. I go run hide underneath the bed. So I'm thinking, oh, they'll go away in about 5-10 minutes. That's not what happened. They were actually there to repossess the house. And they had given my mom so many notices that they came with the people from the bank or whoever it was, I don't know, man, to repossess the house, excuse me. But they took everything in it. They took everything. You're talking about pictures, man. All kinds of, things, memories, things that mean something to people, when they have a home. So they took all of that. They took all of it. Even I think they gave my mom, I don't know how much time to come up with the money to regain those things back. And she never did for whatever reason. I don't know. So all the things that we had, my brother at the time, let's see, I was 13, 14 at the time. My oldest brother was like 17, 18 at the time. He was already, he was my 2 of my oldest brothers, they're big sports fans. So they were collecting cards, 15, 20 years ago, like cards, rookie cards, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all those type of, or, whoever, man. I'm not really that much into sports. But they had all kinds of collections, man. They had all kinds of things, right? And they came in and took all that. And we never got it back. Everything they took, we never got back. They only gave me 10 minutes. They said, we're going to give you 10 minutes to grab everything you can and get out of this house, And the thing that reminds me of how they were, man, towards me, man, like their attitude, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, you're looking at a kid, regardless, like if my mom hasn't paid whatever, like you're talking to a kid, man. And he's just like, they were really rude. And so I don't know, man, I was a kid, man. I grabbed like a garbage bag, threw whatever in there, and that was that. We had to go live with a friend of the family's, and we were bouncing around trailer to trailer after that. And you could only imagine, like as a kid, like, and I don't know if people made fun of me to my face. I don't remember. But I know deep down inside, I was very embarrassed. I was very ashamed of where I came from, and what I had, as far as being poor. And I think that I ran to drugs. I think I ran to alcohol, to live in the street life, to kind of knock that out, to kind of not think about that. There's a lot of things in my life as a kid. People that went to school with me that know me personally now, that they never understood, like why I became angry, But I remember, people making fun of my ears, people making fun of my teeth, things like that. But I was also going through what I was going through, what I just explained. So it was just a bunch of things that made me, I was like, okay, since I know one thing that is going to gain them my respect is violence. That's one thing and I was so angry that I was I could easily inflict violence on somebody, man. And I think about it. So that was one of the, I try to think about my life now, and I try to think about what led to me to going and living that life, man, and throwing my life away for a decade. And I think, like I said, I think it was a lot of things, because I had, like, don't get it wrong, man, my family, my mom and my dad, when they were together, man, like I had a normal childhood. It was normal. It was after they split up that it got chaotic. And I don't blame nobody but myself. Like, I put myself in a lot of these situations, right, because of my actions, and every action has a consequence, right? So I don't blame nobody, man. I think that a lot of things that happened to me in my life, I brought upon myself, especially as a young man, as growing up as an adult. So I take full responsibility. I'm just trying to share my story because in the hopes of maybe, I know there's a lot of young men and women that go through that go through those, and that built insecurities within me, and I didn't want to deal with that, So I would just go do the street thing and try to get respected, try people to fear me so they wouldn't make fun of me. That was like my mindset at the time. But once you start committing these crimes and you start doing all these things with all these older people, I mean, I did my first drive-by when I was 13 years old, and I'm not glorifying that. I'm not trying to get no points. I mean, come on, man, how you gonna get points off that? But anyways, I'm just trying to let people know what it was like for me growing up and what led me to that lifestyle. Maybe different for somebody else. But yeah, man, I was far as school goes, I was just really I was really ashamed and embarrassed, man, that I was going through those things. So I just quit going. I would skip school all the time. I don't know how many times my mom had to go to truancy court for us. And the way we got by during those times, there was a little restaurant type of thing, right, where they sold burgers and all this kind of stuff. Well, the daughter, she would she did dope, so she would buy dope from us, well, from my brother, and she would give us food in return. So we would just go pay we would give her like $1 with some dope in it, and she would just give us all the food, give us like 50 cents, act like we paid for it, right? But she would give us big amounts. She also started helping us by giving us, selling us her food stamps. And that was just, that's just life, man. That's just life. I don't judge nobody, man. I don't, because of the things that I've been through in my life. We were getting by how we could. My brother was like 16 years old, and he was taking care of us. Like, he was doing what he had to do to make sure the bills were paid. You know what I'm saying? And I can't really speak too much on like, why we were unsupervised like that, why we were just left like that, like to fend for our own. I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you. But like I said, I don't put the blame on nobody. Like, we thrived in that. We didn't thrive in it, man. Like, but we fell in love with that lifestyle, man. We were like, me and my brother Ivan, we were brother Dirty, shout out to him, love you, bro. But at first my brother always wanted me to stay away from it. He would always, anytime he caught me at a party, anytime that he felt like I was right there and there was everybody was doing dope and there was all kinds of stuff going on, we would get physical. He would try to beat it out of me. He would try to to show me like, man, you don't belong here. And I don't know if he just seen that I was something else, or he's my older brother, man. I'm pretty sure he looked at me and he's just like, man, I can't have my brother be doing this. But once he seen that I was just, that's what I was gonna do, then it was like, man, what could he do? Nobody could do nothing. I was already on a fucking one-way course to a crash course, man. And so yeah, man, that was growing up like that. And I had I had a lot of things that happened, unsupervised like that, where you become, man, like I said, like, I grew up a lot faster than your normal kid. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that I knew it all. I thought that I was invincible, for one, because I knew if somebody disrespected me, man, I knew I could go to that length and commit that violence that a lot of people are not willing to go. And I knew I could do that. And I did, I guess, which led me to being incarcerated. But I just wanted I wanted to share my childhood story for the simple fact that, all those insecurities, all those fears, all of that was what led me to be the person that I was. I turned my heart cold, because I just felt like the harder I was, the more people would not fuck with me. They would leave me alone for the things that I had insecurities about. Because, you call somebody out on their insecurities, man, it's not a good feeling. And I was always like that. So I said, now, you know what? I'll just be this violent person and nobody will say nothing to me. Going through all, like, so I'm 14, 15 years old. And I'm 15, I started like selling dope. I started selling dope. I remember this one time, my boy Ray, my crimey, shout out to Ray. I hadn't eaten in a day or two. I had a bunch of dope, but he came over. I mean, mind you, I was 14 years old at the time, 15 years old at the time. And he came over and he's like, hey, man, you don't got nothing to eat, man. Like, all I had was powdered milk. I remember that clearly. I had powdered milk. And he's like, man, you don't have nothing to eat, man. We went to the Quickie Mart, a little gas station there in my town. And he's like, distract the cashier. And he went and stole a little hot pizza from me. They started selling these pizzas that were already made. And he went and stole it from me, man. And that always meant a lot to me. But I also look back on that and think about how lost I was, man. About how, how I'm so thankful now that I'm here today. Today's, or not today, but this year will be 10 years since I've been released from prison. And I haven't been perfect. Like I said, we're going to get into that. So Ray did that for me, man. I'm something that I'm always grateful for. There's another time where, like I said, we're bouncing house to house, right? We're getting evicted. It's very embarrassing. Couple times the landlord would see my mom at the store and confront her. I'm a kid at the time, and he's talking crazy to her. And, I remember all those things, man. And I remember going through them as a kid. And I think maybe in prison, that's what helped me, just be like, you know what, I'm here now. This is what I'm gonna devote my life to out there anyways. It's hell for me out there anyways, So in prison, I kind of thrived because I was already had it hard on the streets, So in there, I was just like, all I got to do is be violent. But yeah, man. So, I was going through life like that. And other times where I was living in the trailer I got arrested in, there was a time where I had a couple girls over. I was like 15 years old. I was with Ray, my crimey, and another dude, couple girls, skipping school once again. And I remember, like I said, man, we're poor. So we had a bunch of stuff from the from like the rent-a-center type of places, right? Refrigerator, washer, dryer, and all that. And lo and behold, one day they come and they knock on the door. And while I'm there with the girls and my friends, they come to repossess the fridge. We had to take this up, man. It was so embarrassing, man. And it led me even further away from wanting to be with society, because I just felt like, man, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. Like that, honestly, that's what I felt like as a kid. I was like, man, I'm going through all these things. Why me? Because my brothers growing up, they're all older brothers than mine. So they grew up with my parents when they were together. They grew up, normatively, a normal family. And I caught the end of them being separated. So I'm going through the most. I'm not the most, but, I'm having the hardest time dealing with it. And I became this kid that would just fight at the drop of a hat, right? I would just, but I didn't do it. It even carried over to me as an adult. I did it for other people. I did it because I thought that they would view me a certain way. And I didn't care what I didn't care what happened to me. I didn't care if I would get beat up. I would always fight older guys, bigger guys, and sometimes y'all would get beat up, and it was thinking about it now, it makes me emotional, man, because I'm so far from who I used to be, and it's a blessing, and sometimes it amazes me that I survived all the things that I did. Yeah, so let's get back to it. So they came and repossessed all that stuff. And I become more afraid to go to school. I don't want to go to school. I don't got no supervision. So I'm just like, fuck it, man, whatever. It doesn't matter what happens to me. Nothing can be worse than this. And another thing I want to talk about is how, at an early age, I was sexually active at an really early age, with older women. And it completely changed my mindset when it comes to women, relationships, and things of that nature. And I'm not saying everything I've done in my relationships was because of that, but it definitely changes you, man. It definitely, like I said, I was a grown up when I was 13, 14 years old. I was already, I was already in the streets. I was already doing all kinds of stuff. And that's, I think, like I said, I think it was just a perfect storm into what I became because I went to prison. It was, so I don't, let's not jump back into prison, but I was, so going through life like that. And so the more I become entrenched in the lifestyle, the more violent I become, the more thinking I can get away with things, the more it's like, man, the only thing I'm going to respond with is violence. But I think deep down inside, I was crying for help, man. I was crying for help. And like I said, there was times where I sabotaged the help. I was about 15 years old. When I had a friend. She lived about 30, 40 minutes away from where I lived. And we ended up getting into a relationship. And her mother, she came to drop me off one day at the trailer that I was staying at. And at the time, everybody was outside. It's a trap house. You have all kinds of people out there. My brother was there. There was a party going on. They come to drop me off. I had spent the day at their house. They come to drop me off, and she's like, her mom, we're going because it was like what do you call it, like a cul-de-sac where I lived, man. Like it was like a trailer course, like a dirt, like not a cul-de-sac like you think like a rich neighborhood. It was like a trail of dirt, and so she pulled up right there. And she seen all these people there, and she's like, "Man, this is where you live?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Where's your mom?" I was like, "Well, I don't know." So where's your dad? Well, he's in California. So who's take care of you? I said, "My brother." She's like, "Oh, okay. Well, are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, man, it's all good." I was like, because to them, they were like, "Man, this." I was 15-year-old kid, but I knew what I had already been involved in, man. I was already, they wouldn't believe the things if I had told them what I was involved in. They wouldn't believe it. But anyways, I go in the house, and it's a party, like I said, and her mom calls me. My friend's mom calls me, and she said, "Hey, pack your bags and come with us." She's like, "Pack your bags and come with us." Like, what are you talking about? She's like, "Just pack what you can and just let's go." I get in the car. I said, "Okay." I get in the car, and she's like, "Hey, you're gonna come live with us, and I'm gonna homeschool you, and I'm gonna do what I can for you, because she didn't think that I should be living that way. And to this day, I haven't been able to thank her personally, because she became very disappointed in me when I went to prison. But I'm always gonna have respect, and I'm always gonna have love for her, for doing that for me. And even then, they moved me to their house. This was a little bit prior before I got arrested. Like I said, I was 15, and they moved me to their house. They built a whole room for me. They live in, and it's like I said, it's kind of outside of the town that they live in, a little farm type of thing. And so I'm living there, man. I'm getting homeschooled, but the whole time, I'm living this other life. I'm living a double life, man. Because when I go down to my town, man, I'm back in it. I'm back in the dope. I'm back into with hanging with the homies. I'm back doing all kinds of dirt. And then Monday comes, I'm back over there with them, and I'm acting like nothing ever happened, So that's why I say. So eventually, you know what I'm saying? We ended up, the relationship didn't work out, whatever have you, and I go back to town. I ended up getting arrested maybe like a week later after I left their house. I want to say maybe, yeah, or maybe longer. I don't know. It was a long time ago. But like I said, man, I just felt that I didn't deserve that love, man. I didn't feel like I deserved somebody to do that. Maybe because I was still doing the things that I was doing behind their backs, and I was just like, that's why I always knew what's coming to me, the hardships that came to me were things that because I brought them upon myself. And that's something that we need to take responsibility for the things that we do and not try to blame this person, that person, or circumstances. Yeah, circumstances are hard, man. But what makes you the man that you are, the woman that you are, is rising above those circumstances. And, as of recent, that's what I've been doing. But anyways, so yeah, that happened, right? That happened. They gave me a perfect opportunity, man. Like I was going to school, I was doing everything right. I was going down to my town, but sure enough, man, I just that street in me, that person, that other person that I was, I couldn't get away from it. And so yeah, man, and then like I said, so that was my pretty much mostly, man, that was my childhood. The hardships, the having no electricity, no water, having to go use the bathroom at the park, all that. At that moment, at that age, kind of created me into who I was. And when I went to prison, like I said, it wasn't it was hard. It was hard, right? For the person, for the human the humanity that I have inside of me. But the animal that I have inside of me made it easier, excuse me. Like, I don't know how to explain that. But when I needed to be a beast, when I needed to be an animal, I knew I could, But then later on at night, when I'm sitting in prison, I'm sitting there by myself and I got nothing but them four walls, it's tough, man. It's really hard. So even after I got out of prison, right? I got out of prison, and one of the things right here, this is my father. This is my father. Rest in peace. This is the man that I dedicate my whole life to. The reason why I'm the way I am today. The reason why I do the things I do for my kids, is for this man right here, is my father. I'm gonna do a special episode on him, and what he meant to me, to my family. And I hope I can make it through it, man, because I'll get choked up talking about it, man. But rest in peace to my father. He's a great man. So I didn't get to see my dad for 10 years. I didn't get to see my dad the whole time I was incarcerated. The whole time I was incarcerated, I didn't get to see him. I would talk to him all the time on the phone. You know what I'm saying? But back in those times, phone call, like it was like $4 a minute, $3 a minute. So I would talk to my dad here and there. But man, one thing my dad always told me, he's like, He's like, as long as I'm alive, yo nunca te voy a dejar abajo, which means I will never leave you, you know? I will never leave you. And I know he's with me to this day. And I lost track of what those words meant to me. And when he passed away, you know, I lost track of that, man. I lost track of what life really meant. And when I decided to stop using drugs and alcohol to cover up the pain, when I decided to stop running away from grieving, I started realizing, you know, that all what I'm doing in my life is a tribute to the man that gave me life. And you know, so yeah, man, I didn't get to see him for 10 years. And when I got out, like I said, you know, so it's a big world. It's open, man. It's new to me. I feel like I was 16 years old again. And my dad, I would go see my dad, and I don't know if deep down inside, like I had some type of resentment or something like that, because you know, all those years that not all those years, like 13 to 16 years old when I got arrested, I knew he was going through things, right? So yeah, but you know, it made it really hard, and so he ended up getting cancer. He ended up getting cancer, and he ended up passing away. And when he had during the time that he had cancer, I couldn't contemplate that, man. Like it's like there's, you know, I don't know. I can't even talk about the way I felt, man. I was just numb to it. And when he passed away, that's one of the things that hit me the most. It's like, man, I spent so much time wasted away doing a decade in prison, and then I get out and I'm over here kicking it with my homies. I'm over here kicking it with a girl, partying, and I don't got time to answer his phone call. I don't got time to go see him in Cali, you know, like I should have. And it's, man, all those things. And so I started getting lost. Like I said, man, don't think that I got out of prison and like, oh, I've been out 10 years and it was just a smooth ride, man. It was not. You know, I went right back into the stupid shit that I used to do before. Hung out with the same dudes I used to hang out with, doing the same things, and I lost focus. I lost focus of what was really important in my life. And that's why, you know, me sharing this is something that a lot of people are going to hear that's never known that about me. Even people that I know from my town. But like I said, man, I got to be honest. If I really want to be helping people, if they're going through a situation like me and they see no way out, like, no, I got to be this way because I can't turn to be some man. You could be anything you want to be. You can wake up tomorrow and decide you want to be something different than you were the day before. That's the power that you have. You know, don't let people think that you have to be this way all your life, man. And that's what I thought. And, you know, my father's death, it's something that to this day, it hasn't something that I really dealt with, you know, but I try to, you know, I try to, and what's helped me a lot is just knowing that what I'm doing with my life now is a tribute to him, you know, and so that's something you guys got to realize, man. You're not always going to have time to correct your mistakes. You know, you're not always going to be able to tell the people that you wronged or the people you should have been there for, that you're sorry, you know, and yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard, but that's what makes me who I am, you know. I could sit here and I could get drunk all day. I could fucking go ruin my life. But you know where I'm gonna end up? I'm gonna end up in a tiny ass cell, hurting worse than I am now from my father's death, you know. And that's something that's like this personal to me. That sharing it with you guys here is something that means a lot to me. But it's like that's, you know, like I always tell people, no matter what you go through, you gotta find a purpose in life, man. And once you find that purpose, you give it your all, and you live a positive life, man. Nothing but positive things are gonna happen to you. If you live negative shit, man, you think negative shit, you do negative shit, that's all that's gonna come to your life. So yeah, man, it was, you know, my dad passed. I didn't mean to go off track there, but it was a big thing in my life. And you know, let's get back to when I got out of prison. I went back to doing the same shit. And you know, one of the things my brother told me, one of my older brothers told me, he said, man, you ain't changed, man. You just ain't gotten caught. You know, that's what he said. And it's true. So, and that's why I was like, if I'm going to do these podcasts, if I'm going to do these, go speak at different schools, I'm going to try to go speak at schools, go speak to classes and share my journey, you know, share my mental health aspect of my mental health, the things that I took with me out of prison that affect me to this day. And that's why, you know, I have to be honest. I have to be open if I'm truly going to be helping people. And but it is hard for me, man. It's hard for me. I carry a lot of things. People see me that know me. I'm happy-go-lucky, man. I'm always clowning. I'm always in a good mood. But there's a lot of times where I go to dark places, you know, where I'm a truck driver. So a lot of the times when I have that time to drive with those long stretches, man, I gotta pull over because there's emotions in me that I ran away from for so long that they take over me, and I pull over, whether I gotta take a break and just meditate and breathe, or I gotta let some tears out, man. I do it, you know, because if you don't, it destroys you. But yeah, man. So I would go back to the same. I'll go back to the same shit. I got involved in drugs again. I got involved in drinking again. I got involved in riding again. You know, like going with the homies, and you gotta, you know, let's go ride on these dudes or whatever, man. And it's all an effect, man. It's all it's like excuse me. It's like I told one of my homies one time. I said, man, when we're kids, our imagination is wild, man. It's endless, you know. I was like, and then once you become, you know, a gang member, you become, you know, you represent your block, right? Think about it, your block. That's your whole world. Your whole world becomes that little block. It becomes that little block, and that's your whole world. But if you break away from that block, man, it's your possibilities are endless again. So I go back to being a kid again, and deep down inside, you know, I don't try to take life too seriously as far as you know, I try to be happy. I try to not let little things bother me. But don't get me wrong, they do, because a lot of the things that I took out of prison, you know, like I said, you're in a tiny ass cell, and sometimes in my prison episodes, I don't speak about what goes on a day to day. You know how they, you know, you have certain hours where they crack open the door. They only leave it open for 10 minutes, crack, and then you gotta wait. So a lot of the times when you're in there in that cell, pacing back and forth, waiting for them to crack open that door, and they don't, I mean, man, you start losing your mind. You start pacing back, and you know, you don't have no patience. And I feel like that's what happens to me. That's what I carried out here from prison. Is I get angry a lot sometimes. I lose my patience quick, because it's a lot of effects from that. Especially doing 6 years in the hole. You know, I have a lot of things that I deal with, but it's a testament to who I am, the way that I deal with it. You know. But anyways, man. So yeah, that was a little bit part of my childhood, man, growing up, and a little bit about when I got out of prison. You know how lost I got. And you know, as I go along more with these episodes, I can remember more. But with the main purpose of this episodes, I didn't want it to be. I see a lot of channels, right, that they don't speak on mental health anymore. Now it's all about gossip, drama, rappers or whatever it be. My channel's not gonna be like that. I don't care if I get 200 views or 200,000 views. You know, as long as I can help people, that's what matters to me. And with that, man, I'm going to leave this episode, man, and I hope you guys stick with me for the next one. And with that, I'm out.